Hey guys, so earlier today I had this position in a game and I was playing as white. It was my move and there's a really strong move here. And I was able to find it based on thinking about a tactic that I've actually recently talked about on this channel. I'll just say, without giving it away, I'll say within the last month, I've talked about this particular tactic. And because of that idea, I was able to find this move. So I'm going to show you guys this game, how we led up to this position. But I want you to think through, what do you think the tactic could be that I'm talking about from looking at this position? And if you don't figure it out, that's okay. It's kind of a little bit more of a difficult question, I would say, but I want to give you guys a chance to think about that. And once you think you have an idea, let's go ahead and jump back to the beginning, look at this game. We'll see how we got to this position, and then I'll give you a chance to find the best move again. Let's take a look. All right, so here we go. I was white, and I was trying to play a particular line that I like to play against the modern here, where I start with f4. Again, this is something I cover in my e4 course, but my opponent played c5, and this kind of took it out of the territory that I was going for, so I ended up transposing into what's called the Grand Prix attack. So this normally would arise out of the Sicilian, so e4, c5, and when black plays, let's say knight c6 and g6, one setup you can go for as white is to play knight c3, f4, and then you bring your bishop out and you end up attacking on the king side, usually with f5, Grand Prix attack. It's really interesting opening, leads to some really exciting positions for white, can get very complicated in the middle game though. So I castled, knight gd7, queen to e1. This is a standard idea in the Grand Prix attack. The queen can't really go anywhere to attack on the king side on this diagonal, and so you need to slide it over one, and it gives you the option of coming over this way, usually h4, and kind of creating threats over here. So I traded this off. My opponent castled. I played f5. Again, another common idea in the Grand Prix attack. The point is not that we really care about that pawn. If you count up the pieces, black has plenty of firepower on the f5 square. The reason we're playing this move is twofold. Number one, we want to open up the bishop. And number two, we're also potentially opening up the rook or even creating a space here for the knight. Basically just opening up the ranks and files. I'm sorry, the files and the diagonals so that our pieces can attack the king better. So that's the whole point. It's a pawn sacrifice. So g takes, bishop g5, f6. And this is an awkward move by my opponent. Yes, it shuts down the bishop and it does gain a tempo, but the problem for black is this guy now is completely taken out of the game, which is not ideal. So I just went back and considered that, a victory. Now, d5, and I was actually confused here about this position. So Stockfish is telling me I'm actually doing very well if I just take this pawn. I thought I had messed something up at this point, because normally in the Grand Prix, I get a little bit more of an attacking position. I get my queen over here faster, and I'm not losing so much time with d5 on my bishop, and I just felt like something was off, and so I thought I was in like a bad position. Stockfish says, no, you take this, and if black takes this way, look at these pawns. And so you just simply go back and look at my pawn structure, and I'm happy, and long term, these guys are just sitting ducks, right? This bishop is terrible. This bishop's not awesome, right? And I have lots of targets. So very simple, when you see it, but I just, for whatever reason, I didn't think through that. Knight takes d5. I just take this pawn on d4. I don't know. I totally just kind of missed how strong this was, I guess. So anyway, in the game, I played bishop to b3, which kind of gives back some of the advantage. We get some trades here. And let's keep going. We get another trade. We get this really interesting bishop, rook, rook. Black has more control of the center, but, relatively equal position, I would say. Got off the diagonal. And here my opponent lost the pawn. If I took the pawn earlier, by the way, I should mention, if I took it right here, I would have fallen for this little trick, queen c5 check. So that was the point behind playing king to h1, just to get out of that. And so now when my opponent played here, I was like, well, it's a free pawn, so let's take that. And then they let me skewer the rook here. So we got that. So now I'm totally winning, but it's not that easy because black does have this annoying center. And you're going to see what happens here in a second. This bishop gets very annoying for me, right? Like this bishop is really restricting my rooks, and I have to be careful with this pawn, and so it's not that easy even though I am ahead. All right, so let's keep going and get to the critical position here. I decided to use this pawn to kind of try to attack. King to h2. All right, it gets pretty tricky. I want to just get you to the position here. Yeah, so right about this moment in the game, I started to notice something. So this is not the exact position that I showed you earlier. We're going to get there in one more move, but I want you to pause now and think through, what do you notice about this position? And are there any potential weaknesses in Black's position that we might be able to take advantage of? And how could we potentially make that happen? So go ahead and think through that, and then I'll show you what I played. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, I decided to play Rook takes e3. Now, Stockfish says if Black would have taken with the queen, my idea is not going to be as good, but my opponent did take with the pawn, which is what I was calculating. I figured they would try to take this way and push this pawn down. But now I have a really strong move. This is a position that I showed you at the beginning of the video, so go ahead and pause. What did I play here, and what's the idea that I'm taking advantage of? See if you can figure out those two things, and then we'll talk about it. All right, if you had a chance to do that. So the move that I played was h6. Now, why did I play this? Well, first of all, we have to understand that my bishop is being attacked. So the logical move is like save the bishop, right? Like move the bishop somewhere or defend the bishop or, you know, something along those lines. h6, even though it threatens checkmate, Black, when they take the bishop, they're also defending the checkmate, right? So I can't go there. But what I noticed was that when I play h6, I'm creating a back rank mate threat. Do you guys remember a video I did very recently, a couple of days, a week ago or something, where I talked about back rank mate, right? That's what I was thinking of, and I had this idea of like, what happens if Black leaves the back rank undefended? Can I play queen to b8 and win the game? And I have to check all the ways that Black can block it. The bishop is undefended, I'll take it. The queen, undefended, I'll take it. The rook, undefended, I'll take it. And so I knew that my bishop was actually totally safe if I play this move h6. And my opponent didn't see that. It was a blitz game. They didn't see it. And queen b8 check, and they resigned. And, you know, this is really important, I think, because a lot of people probably looking at this position were not thinking about a back rank checkmate, right? It just doesn't really look like a back rank mate situation. But I had to keep that in my mind, and I could turn it into that by playing move h6, sacrificing the bishop. And so just another example of how all these different types of tactics have to be floating around in your head, and then they can kind of come together at just the right moment. Okay, so hope that helps you guys, and just kind of gives you a, you know, another example of how back rank mate shows up in a slightly more complicated way. Congratulations to everybody who found h6. Not an easy move to spot right away, so congratulations if you did find that. Thank you guys for watching. As always, stay sharp, play smart, and take care.